Well, hello there, challengees, and welcome to the Always Better Challenge Show, the show designed to help you take steps today that lead to a better and happier tomorrow. I'm your humble host, Joe Bedford. I hope everyone is having a great day today. And as always, we are going to, before I was going to jump into the quote, but first I want to remind you, please subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already. Please rate and review the podcast if you're a podcast listener. And I want to put in a little extra plug for the email list. I'll be honest, I'm not getting the sign up on the email list that I would like. I wonder if folks maybe don't know exactly what they get. And I guess the point I want to make is that the emails are short and to the point. This isn't some big long thing that you're going to have to slog through every day. Just like the show, I have a motivational / inspirational quote. I have a link to the most recent episode of the video show on YouTube. I have a link to the most, recent audio podcast version of the show. And I have a very quick thought of the day, which is like a paragraph. And that's it. So it's not some big long thing you have to slog through. It does come out every weekday. If folks were interested in a different option, like a weekly option or something like that, let me know. That's something I would certainly consider. But I like the idea. I kind of think that, I call it the daily booster. I send it out every morning around 9 a.m., or that's my goal. And I just think that's a good way to start the day. So please consider signing up for that. Now we're going to get to our quote of the day / topic introduction. And our quote today comes from Andrew Wilkinson. Andrew says, "You don't have to make yourself miserable to be successful. It's natural to look back and mythologize the long nights and manic moments of genius, but success isn't about working hard, it's about working smart." And so the topic for today, I'm going to talk about how to live a more balanced life. So tips for a lot of folks talk about work-life balance, but we could also be talking about really balancing all the different areas of your life. Excuse me. Now, I touched on this topic briefly in a previous show. I haven't done a whole show about it, but it keeps coming up. It is by far the most common comment that I'm getting from viewers of the show, listeners to the show. And folks are saying that this is an area that they struggle with, that they have problems around. So I feel like I just have to do a show on it. I definitely want to help. It's interesting because it's not something that I think about so much now for some reason, and hopefully we'll maybe talk about that as we go through the show today. My life feels relatively balanced to me most of the time. Now, one of the points I want to make is, it's a journey, not a destination. It doesn't stay in perfect balance all the time. I mean, that'd actually probably be kind of boring. I mean, sometimes your energies are going to have to be more focused one direction or another direction. I think that's natural. So I think that's kind of what I touched on when I talked about this briefly before, is that, I almost feel like the idea of balance is a little bit of a myth, because it's not like some destination that you get to. It's constantly moving around, and you're constantly trying to rebalance, I suppose, the best that you can. I can say, and this might be, I guess it's going to be another topic of our discussion today, but the time in my life when I felt like I struggled the most with balance, not surprisingly, was a time in my life when I was working a lot, when work was taking up 80 and 85 hours a week of my life. So yes, that was a time when I definitely did struggle with feeling balanced. And so again, hopefully we can sort of touch on that as we go through this topic. And actually, like, the first main point, this might be the biggest point of all, which is why I put it first. And this sort of goes to, like, even talking about what I just talked about, which there was a time in my life when I was working long, crazy hours. And the point that I want to make in looking at balance is, that it all comes down to decisions. It all comes down to the decisions that we make, because we have to make decisions. We cannot do everything. We cannot do it all. There are a finite number of hours in the days and the weeks and the months. And, the thing is that, and we could, argue exceptions, but everybody has 168 hours a week. That's it. You can't get more. You can't buy more. Or I said you could argue with that is, you could outsource things. You could argue that you're buying time that way, but you got 168 hours. That's it. So you have to make decisions. Lots of, and then there's lots of elements that go into this. Like the first thing that comes into my mind is, things like maybe volunteering or other like maybe social commitments that you've made. And of course, I'm not telling you not to do those things, but it's really looking at things like that and really everything in your life. Put everything up for negotiation as far as commitments, things that you're spending your time on, and ask yourself, is this, you want to be spending the time on the things that are most important to you. And, budgeting those 168 hours that you have each week, you have to make decisions about how you want to do that. And as we're going to discuss as we go along, most everything in your schedule is negotiable. Even some things that maybe you don't think of as being negotiable, they are. And so it's up to you to really look at that and make decisions about how you want to spend your time. That's really what it comes down to at the end of it. So the rest of it is just us sort of talking about that. There's another thing we can talk about when we're talking about ways that we spend our time in making decisions and making commitments. I talked about, volunteering and things like that, but there's other things as well. Perfect example that occurred to me when I was thinking about this episode. I love to play the drums. I, played in high school, and I have a drum set in my basement. I love to play the drums. And you know what? In a perfect world, I could spend, hours a day playing the drums. But guess what? Let's cry for me now. I hardly ever get to play the drums. But don't feel sorry for me. Don't say, oh, Joe, your life's out of balance. You don't ever get to play the drums. No, I have made decisions. And yes, I love playing the drums, but there are things that are more important to me that I want to spend my time on. So I have made the conscious choice and the drums just doesn't get done very often. And that's a choice, and I'm okay with that choice. And, I feel like I'm in balance. And who knows, maybe there will be another chapter in my life where I have more time to play drums, and that'll be great. But for right now, no, that's a thing I don't get to do. And so I've made that decision. So there might be things, analogies in your own life that you can see where that would hopefully apply and help you, I hope. So another big thing that we have to look at when we're talking about balance, because really what we're talking about here is time, how to spend our time. So we've got to talk about time management. Now, I did a whole show on that, so I'm obviously not going to rehash all of that here. But this is definitely a component that we have to look at. So if you feel out of balance, the tough questions I have to ask you. Do you use a calendar and really use it? Not halfway use it. Really use it. Do you use a to-do list? Do you use checklists, which is probably something, I don't know if that would be a whole show. Actually, it maybe would be. I think checklists are a big, huge thing. I think I talked about this in the time management episode. A big tool that a lot of people, I think, don't use. I have a morning checklist. I have a kind of shorter evening checklist. Checklist really helps me They're really good for the mundane tasks that we all have to do that if you're not careful can chew up a bunch of time. If you can just bam, 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 bam on the mundane stuff, that's a great time, great way to squeeze some time out, I think, right there. Do you plan your days, your weeks, your months? When I'm talking about do you really use a calendar, I guess that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just throwing stuff on there when it comes up. I'm talking about, do you take some quiet time 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, however long, you think it takes. Maybe on a Sunday evening, whenever it works for you. Do you really consciously plan out your days, your weeks, your months? Are you planning out how you want to spend your time? Because if you just walk around and react to stuff as it comes up, I can definitely imagine how that would lead to a feeling of imbalance when things that you wish were getting done aren't. You're not spending time on those. Well, then schedule the time. You've got 168 hours a week. Decide how you want to spend it. And I know you're going to say, well, but I don't get to decide how I want to spend it all. Well, we're going to talk about that. Maybe deciding, who knows? Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe allocating would be a better way of saying, there are certain things that are pretty non-negotiable. You got to sleep. You could negotiate how much, I guess. But you got to work. Most of us have to work. But again, we're going to talk about that as we go. Most things are negotiable. Look at everything and look at what things can be changed if they're not the way you want them to be. And here's the thing. Don't tell me. Don't do it. Don't tell me I don't have time to plan my days and weeks and months. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Make that part of your plan too. You're going to get the planning time back. You are, because you're not going to waste as much time. So don't tell me you don't have time to plan. You do. You can argue with me down below, but that's what I'm saying. So argue with me down below if you want to, and we'll talk about it. Because I think that having a clear plan and making clear decisions, I think that's going to help reduce regret. And I think that's what a lot of people have when they feel imbalanced, is they've got regret. Oh, I'm not spending enough time on that. I'm not spending enough time on that. Well, then figure out if you can do that and make a plan to do that. And if it's the old serenity prayer too. If you really don't have time to do it, then don't regret it, because if you can't, you can't. So, that's another part of it as well. Okay, now here's the part where I'm going to step on some toes, maybe. But hopefully not, because I'm not telling you what to do. I'm trying to present options to you, things to consider if there are areas that you're struggling with. So if you're struggling with balance, if you're struggling with time management, if you're struggling with having enough time for things that are important to you, whatever those are, I'm not telling you what they are, whatever's important to you. So when you start doing that, then I think it just automatically becomes more important to you. You're like, well, I sure don't want to waste time. When you realize how precious your time is, you sure don't want to waste time. And there's lots of ways that time can be wasted through, inefficiencies in planning is one way. But what I'm thinking about here is more time that's not maybe wasted isn't the right word, but where you're spending time on the things that are not the most important to you, that are not your priorities, but they turn into time suck somehow, or things that you're spending a lot more time on, maybe even than you realize. So, I'm thinking of the obvious things here. How much time do you spend watching television? How much time do you spend on social media? How much time do you spend on the news, on entertainment, on watching ball games, things like that? So again, I'm not telling you not to spend time on those. If they are that important to you, then spend time on those, but allocate that time as well. And if those things aren't that important to you, then quit wasting time on them. Don't get sucked into the thing. Don't let your friends suck you in too. I've had that myself with different things. I'm just going to tell you up front. I don't watch Game of Thrones. I don't watch The Walking Dead. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that if you do, but I don't. And I felt almost like peer pressure, where everybody's watching it and everybody's talking about it, and I have no idea what they're talking about. But that's the decision that I've made. That's something that didn't make the cut when I'm planning out my days and weeks and months. Those are just things I don't do. I don't watch a lot of television. I watch movies with my wife in the evening, and every once in a while I'll watch HGTV, and that's about it. And that's my decision. That's what works for me. I'm not prescribing that to you, but I'm just saying to think about how you're spending your time, and is it in alignment with how you want to be spending your time? You know, do you feel great about spending that time on that after you spend it? Or is it more a situation where you go down a rabbit hole on Instagram or wherever, and next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, it's an hour and a half later, I don't even know where that hour and a half went. And I'm not even in a good mood, I don't even feel like I accomplished anything. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. I am not putting myself in the position of prescribing to you, well, you need to not do this and not do this, and you need to do this and you need to do this. No, it's up to you. But make sure that you're spending that time where you really deep down want to. And that's where the planning in advance, I believe, helps. So question those areas where maybe you're spending more time than you really even want to. And there's one other point I want to make. I'm just going to put this one bluntly. It's like, if you tell me that you don't have enough time, that your life is out of balance because you don't have enough time for whatever it is that you feel like you're neglecting, your friends, your family, whatever, and you're binging on Game of Thrones, what you're really saying, because if that's how you're really spending your time, you're saying you want to spend your time one way, but you're really spending it another way, you're saying that what you're spending it on is more important than what you're not spending it on. I mean, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. So if that's not what you want to do, then you need to get mindful and conscious and make a change. So, work. Let's talk about work a little bit. Because I know that most folks are going to say, well, I don't get to choose what I do with my time. I have a job. Well, yeah, I think most of us do. Not all of us, but most of us. We work different hours each week. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. I had this a little bit further down in my notes, but now that we're talking about work, and I'm thinking this might be a better time to talk about this right now. I've already discussed the idea. 24 times 7 is 168. That is how many hours each and every one of us has each week to do the things that we want to do in our life. That is not truly non-negotiable. Nobody has 169 hours. Every single one of us has 168. So let's say that you sleep 56 hours, that's 8 hours a night times 7. And let's say that you work 40 hours, since that's the, supposed average. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in here, and we'll talk more about this later, because this is pretty much, I'd like to consider this in the non-negotiable channel, is the gym. Because, I go every day, and I know, you don't have to go every day, but I go every day, and I spend an hour, which I think is a good amount of time. You can spend 2 hours if you've got enough time. Again, this is up to you. These are your decisions and what's important to you. But I'm going ahead and saying 7 hours a week in the gym. When you compare that with that you've got 168 total, 40 work, 56 sleep, 7, that's nothing. To me, that's nothing. And that's so important in helping me, again, feel work-life balance, because you got to take care of your health, and we're going to talk about that definitely as we go through the show today. So my point is, 168 minus the 40 for work, minus the 56 for sleep, minus the 7 for the gym, that leaves 65 hours. That's over 9 hours every single day. Now, yeah, we have a lot of things we have to do, like I say, the mundane stuff. You got to load the dishwasher and take out the garbage, and all the stuff. But you got over 9 hours a day. You got over 9 hours a day, assuming that all these other numbers add up. And we're going to go back to work, and we're going to talk about. Well, let's just go back and talk about that right now. So yeah, if you're 40 hours a week, that's where you're at. I know not everybody works 40 hours a week. Some work more than 40 hours a week. I've done that in the past myself. And yes, that was a time when I felt like I had to really work harder to have any kind of feeling of living a balanced life. So the question is, do you want to be working that much? If not, do you need to make some changes? The point, I think I've mentioned this in previous shows. One of my favorite sentences that I use this on myself, and I use this on other people, mostly on myself, because I don't want to get up in other people's grill. But when you're facing an obstacle, the question becomes, okay, and what can I do about it? I am not interested in sitting around and crying and moping about my situation. It is what it is. What can I do about it? How can I change it? How can I negotiate it? How can I live with it? Whatever it is, that's the question I ask. What can I do about it? So, for none of us, a job is not a life sentence. If there is something that we don't like about our work situation, I think so often we look at that as, oh, that's just how it is. But what can we do about it? What changes can we make? And, I don't think list here, the different options that might exist in that situation. Negotiating for less hours, getting a different job. I mean, and everybody has their unique situation. But the point I'm trying to drive home here is, don't think, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. Look at that. Is there really nothing you can do about it? Because most of the time, most things are negotiable in life. Most things are negotiable in life. So if you don't like that situation, can you change that? Is that a way that you can have more balance by working less? Because that's what I did. For all my talking about, the time in my life when I was working a lot, that was a choice. That was a choice, and I felt like it was the right choice at the time, and so I endured the consequences of that. And when I got to a point where I felt like that was no longer the right choice, then I made changes. So that's my point there. If you work, and if you work less than 40 hours a week, then, I guess that's less than average, right? So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to have balance. And before we move on about the work thing, the other question that I want to ask you is, do you enjoy your work? Because I wonder, folks that complain about balance, I wonder how much of the problem really is that they hate their jobs. And so, that's why they feel out of balance, because that time that they spend working is not enjoyable. Now, yeah, work is not the same as being at Disney World. It's not playtime. It is work. But, work can be fulfilling and enjoyable. And, it doesn't have to be a drudgery and a grind. So if you find yourself in that situation, I would challenge you to ask yourself what you can do about that, what changes you can make so that you don't have to hate work. So that's a point as well. Kids, I know that's going to be another big one that folks are going to say, and I'll say right there, I feel you there. I don't have kids at home now, but I have in the past, so I do know what that's like. I do remember what that's like. And kids take a lot of time. There's no getting around that. The suggestions that I would have to offer is, first of all, I would remind you that the kids don't have to do everything. And I think some parents fall into that trap where they think they've got to have extracurricular activities scheduled for those kids every waking hour. And, just like we're talking about with our own schedule, we don't want to overburden our kids' schedules and then by extension overburdening our own schedule since we have to drive them all over the place. We need to make decisions. Yeah, we want them to have a balanced life, including extracurricular stuff, but they don't have to do every single activity, every single minute, every single hour. So, that's I guess a tip there is don't overburden yourself and your kids by scheduling them for too much. Another thing, I just got for those of you who are new to having kids in the house or don't yet, because those of you that do, I think you already know this. Bottom line is you're going to have less time for friends and fun and some stuff, during those years. My wife said it. She said, the years of when she said, those are the years of sacrifice. Those are the years when your life is not as much your own as it is at other stages of your life. It's a temporary stage. You do get them raised and grown eventually. And the older they get, arguably you have more of your life back, arguably. But, just know that, if you've got kids, you're going to have less time for some other stuff. So, that's, again, getting to what I talked about, balance being a myth almost. You're going to be... when you have kids, your balance is going to tilt that way. I don't know how to. If anybody has a way to tell me how to avoid that, other than shipping them off to boarding school, I don't know what it is. Kids take a lot of time, but hey, they're worth it. They are worth it. And if you don't have kids, good for you. Then that's one thing you don't have to worry about scheduling into your day. So, trying to give maybe some perspective there. If you don't have kids, there are people that do and would, so you're in a better situation at least there with your balance. So that's the thing. There's always somebody that has different challenges than us. There's folks who have less and folks that have more, and we have less. We're better in some areas than some folks, and probably worse than others. Sometimes you're out of balance anyway was my next note. Kind of already talked about that. Health. I said we were going to get to health. This was something that I wanted to hit on anyway, and then in researching the show, because I wanted to get lots of different information and perspective on this issue for doing this show. So I read lots of internet articles. I actually read a book, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And the factor that kept coming up over and over that I, of course, totally was happy to see, because it was something that I thought bared talking about, was that you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to take care of yourself. That was mentioned so many times in so many articles, in a way of dealing with feeling out of balance. Because another way of saying that you feel out of balance is to say is stress. I feel stress. And if you feel stress, you got to take care of yourself. You got to spend that hour in the gym. I believe that you need the energy that you're going to get from that. I feel like you're going to get that time back by being more productive and being more clear-headed and feeling better. You've got to take care of your diet. You've got to take care of yourself. That is going to help. I promise you. As far as, and I'm sort of ratting out one of my friends here. I'm not going to name them by name, but they're going to know I'm talking about them. But they said, if I go to the gym as much as I feel like I should, then I feel like I'm neglecting other areas like my friends. The only two things I can say there, and I'm just talking my own game here. Number one is I'm at the gym from 6 to 7 in the morning. That works for my schedule. And the other thing is I don't feel like that's putting my life out of balance in any other areas. What else am I going to be doing 6, 7 in the morning? What other area am I neglecting? That's a great time for that. The other thing is, and this sort of ties in with some other stuff I've talked about, is I'm friends with a lot of the folks at the gym. So I am spending time with my friends. That whole idea of Jim Rohn, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I spend time with people who have similar goals to me. So that helps with that a lot. So as we've already discussed, feeling out of balance, feeling stressed, those are it's almost saying the same thing. So the other point that goes with eliminating stress and also taking care of yourself is you want to make sure that you're dealing with your stress positively, not negatively. Obviously, overeating or drinking alcohol too much or, negative ways like that of dealing with stress, those are not going to help you feel like you have better balance. They're going to make it worse. Dealing with the stress in positive ways like eating good and exercising, those are going to help you deal with the stress better and help you feel like you are more in balance. That has been my experience, and as I said from the research I did in preparing for this show, that seemed to bear that out. So it's not just me telling you something because I think it's the way to go. Sorry, my sister watches the show, and she's the one that busts me on my word whiskers when I and ah, and I don't do a script. I have notes, and sometimes more than others, it's taken me a moment to sort of assemble my thoughts here as I go. I'm looking at my notes and trying to decide how I want to do this. Because I had a note here that doesn't really fit in with what we're talking about now. We talked about kids. It was just a note that occurred to me when I was making this. I put family is everything, no doubt. Don't sacrifice that area. That's just my own personal life advice there. That is an area that I make sure there's time for on my calendar, and I would encourage you to do that as well. I guess that's enough said about that. So what can we do about this? Tips, tools, techniques. How many times have you heard me say this? What gets measured, finish it for me, gets managed. So if you're struggling with feeling out of balance, which as I've said is, in my opinion at least, at the root, a time management issue, then are you tracking how you are actually spending your time? You could do this with paper. One of the books I read said for every hour of the day, write down what you're doing, and she also said write down how you feel about doing it. So there's a way to do it. There are some apps that you can use. I'll link these up in the show notes below. I'm not affiliated with either of these. These are apps I've used at different times. One is called Rescue Time, and the other is called Time Doctor. So I'll link those up in the show notes. Those are computer apps. Another thought that occurred to me, and again from some of the research for the show, was, I've talked about minimalism in the past, the idea of living a simple life, maybe paring down some of your possessions, maybe paring down your schedule. So just throwing that out there as an idea, can you simplify your life, and would that make you feel more in balance? Would you be spending less time worrying about, if you've got a bunch of stuff, taking care of your stuff, organizing your stuff, spend more time cleaning your house because you got a bunch of stuff, so little things like that, everything helps everything else. I'm a big believer in the holistic approach, or a whole life approach, and working on all the good areas are going to help all the other good areas. If I worded that very poorly, but hopefully you get my point there. So can a simple life help? And then just simply, I talked about using your calendar and planning things out. Look at what your barriers are. What are the things specific to you? Because I'm not you. And that's another takeaway that I got from researching this, is that everyone is different. Everyone has a unique circumstances, and everyone has their own definition of what a balanced life is. My life feels balanced to me. It might feel horribly imbalanced to one of you. So, that's definitely something to keep in mind here. We're designing our own best life, not somebody else's. So the answer to, where I'm trying to help with this show and trying to, say, okay, how do I live a more balanced life? Well, the answer is it depends, because it depends on you, your unique circumstances. Hopefully I'm giving you some ideas, some techniques that will help. I hope. That's my goal. That's my goal. Another point that came up in my research, and this is a good idea, is, the idea of living in the present. Don't dwell on the past. Don't worry on the future any more than you can help yourself. Try to just be mindful in the moment you're in. And, because I think that can be part of this feeling of imbalance is, oh, but I wish I could. Oh, you can only, do what you're doing. Do what you're doing and be where you are. One last closing point that I want to make, and this is going to be maybe most helpful to any young folks that are watching, but the other point is, it's never too late. It's never too late. Because the other idea that occurred to me in thinking about this topic is that you want to make good life choices. What I mean is the life choices that we make as we go throughout life when we're young and continuing, sometimes those can make things more difficult. They can we have less options. We have less doors open to us, and more doors are closed to us. So make good choices, and even if you're later in life, it's never too late to try to make better choices from where you are. Hopefully that makes sense and is helpful. I am going to link up a book in the show notes. This is a book that I actually read in preparing for this episode, and I probably will do one of my 5-minute book reviews on this book in the future. The book is called Life Balance: Science and Stories of Everyday Living, and it's by Kathleen Matuska. So that's a book you might want to check out as a resource if this is an area that you are interested in. So we are wrapping up. Remember, I really think it comes down to time management, and it comes down to making clear decisions. Do take the time to plan and make clear decisions about how you want to spend your 168 hours each week. Don't let me tell you how to do it. You do it for you. You do it so that you design the life that you want. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you found this show helpful. Like I say, I really put a lot of heart and thought into this one because I really feel like this is something that people are telling me, hey, this is an area where I could use some help. So I hope this was helpful. And if you have ideas for other things that I could do that would be helpful, please let me know. That's it. Thank you so much for watching the Always Better Challenge Show. Until next time, I'm your humble host, Joe Bedford, reminding you to go out there and make it happen.